Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vegas Underdog. What a day it was for college basketball yesterday. The final games of the 32 were done. Now we've got to the Sweet 16. No game really stood out to me more than that Miami-Auburn game. I mean, not only did they pull off the upset, but they did do it in style. I mean, what a performance. They beat Auburn by 18 points. They were only up one at halftime and then put on a sensational second half performance. For me, they're the story of the year so far. I know what St. Peter's done has been absolutely amazing and great for their school and great for small schools everywhere. But the fact that Miami only had 2 wins last year and they're looking as strong as they are this year. I mean, 2 wins. They won 2 games last year, the whole last season. And now they are literally playing like they can keep up with anybody in college basketball. And I truly believe that they're a major threat right now, major threat. So the fact that they have Iowa State next, who, yeah, they're a good team. They're a decent team, but I didn't expect them to be at the Sweet 16 either. So I think that's a pretty easy win for Miami. And then most likely play Kansas in the 8. So that would also be a tough game right there. The next game was Arizona. Whew, they pulled through in an amazing game last night. I mean, against TCU. That went to overtime. You have to give a lot of credit to TCU. They were down 9 points with 6 minutes left. At that point, you think Arizona's going to pull away and blow them out. But no, TCU came back in it, and they were actually up 3 points with 40 seconds left. And TCU were not a great team this year. I mean, again, they were okay, but they weren't as good as the TCU teams of the last 4 to 5 years. And so they really surprised me yesterday with the performance they put in, and they were unlucky to lose in overtime. Ended up being 95-90. Let's get to the NBA, and wow, the Grizzlies. I mean, hats off to the Grizzlies and Coach Jenkins. Don't get me wrong. I think Ja Morant is an amazing player. I like him a lot. But the Grizzlies are 14-2 without Ja. 14-2 without their best player. I mean, that's not the only thing that impresses me about their run without Ja. They're winning games convincingly without Ja as well. Like, they are blowing teams out the water without Ja Morant. So, for me, this just comes down to the way they've been coached and the rest of the squad. So when you're talking about, like, for example, you got that segment on ESPN a few weeks back where Stephen A was asked who would he prefer in the playoffs, Ja or Giannis. I mean, come on, you could tell the difference when the Bucks play without Giannis immediately. Not only in the spreads, but also in the actual game. With the Grizzlies, when Ja's not around, yeah, they're still heavy favorites as far as the sports books go. So, I mean, that's what we think about that. The Warriors lose at home to the Spurs. Is this a sign? Well, this was the first full game without Steph Curry, and Steph Curry isn't due to be back for the regular season. They are hoping he's going to be re-evaluated in 2 weeks. There's hope of him being back for the start of the playoffs. Obviously, with injuries, we don't know how it's going to play out, but that's what they're hoping for. And clearly, it's really important he is back for the playoffs. There was actually a debate on ESPN as well last week who's more important to the Warriors, Draymond or Steph. I don't know where they get these debates from. I don't even know why they come up. I mean, the numbers just speak for themselves. In the last 2 seasons, the Warriors are 4-12 without Steph in the starting lineup. That's 25% win rate without Steph. And with Draymond out over the last 2 seasons, they're 22 and 21. I'm not saying that's fantastic, but it's a lot better than 25%. It's an above 500 at least. So, to compare the two there, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. Draymond is a very important player, but he's nowhere near as important to the Warriors as Steph is. Celtics, wow. I mean, is it time to take them serious as contenders or what? Over the first 26 games, they had under a 500 record with not many injuries. They had a lot of their players. They just weren't clicking. They had a couple injuries out. Marcus Smart was out. Tatum was out for a few games. But for the most part, everyone was around. Now, they're 17-3 in their last 20 games. 17 wins and 3 losses in the last 20 games. And they're not just doing it by scraping through. They're blowing teams out. Look what they did to Denver last night. I mean, it was ridiculous. And Denver never looked in that. And that's supposed to be a challenging team from the West with an MVP in Jokic. And what impresses me the most is their defense, their team defense, not just their defense. Their team defense is solid. I mean, they do allow the least amount of points in the NBA. I think it's 103 points on average, which is crazy low considering what NBA teams put up this day and age. But that is basically what we have as far as the recap segment goes. Let's get on to today's games. We have the Hornets against the Pelicans. Pelicans are 6-point underdogs in this game. Only Brandon Ingram is the obvious out for the Pelicans. They're coming off a win last night against the Hawks, so this is a back-to-back for them. The Hornets are on a 4-game win streak. Yeah, after a terrible little run they had before that. It's a tough game. This is a tough game. I mean, you're basically saying that you think Charlotte are good enough to win by 6 points. Yes, the Pelicans are coming off a back-to-back, but they're a young team. They can handle it. This could be a stay away from kind of game there. Next, you've got the Cavs against the Lakers. LeBron back in Cleveland for another reunion. He is marked as a game-time decision, but I feel like he is always marked as a game-time decision nowadays. So I don't think he's going to miss this one. Other than that, the Lakers are pretty healthy coming off a loss to the Wizards. Obviously, they won that one game they won the other day in between all the losses. So they're in desperate needs of wins. The Cavs are without Jared Allen and Rondo. They are on a 2-game win streak where they had a bit of fall off after the All-Star break as well. So, the Cleveland are 5.5-point favorites. I would like the Lakers to cover that one. Next up, we've got the Blazers versus the Pistons. 9-point underdogs are the Blazers, missing Josh Hart and Simmons today, both important shooters for them. Lost their last 4, including last night, so this is a back-to-back. I don't know what Blazers are going to show up, and then again, I don't know what Pistons are going to show up. So, games like this, for me, it's a coin flip. I wouldn't put the bank on it. I definitely wouldn't put the house on it. Next game to check out is the Jazz versus the Nets. Obviously, this is a home game for the Nets, so no Kyrie. I'm sure he's going to be allowed to watch in the stands, but can't play. They have 5 wins out of their last 6 for the Nets. Jazz do have Mike Conley back in the lineup, coming off a win last night to the Knicks, so this is going to be a back-to-back. It's basically, East against the West. Hard game to pick. And then you've got the Heat versus the 76ers. Big game in the East. 4.5-point favorites on Miami. So Embiid's out of this one. That's huge. And that's why they're a 4.5-point favorite in Philadelphia. They're also coming off a back-to-back. They played last night against the Raptors. Very disappointing game for Philadelphia. Didn't even get to 90 points. Harden's elbowing people in the face towards the end of the game. Heat are looking pretty healthy. Butler looks clear to go, which is a big, important player for them. You've got Oladipo out, but Oladipo's been out most of the season, only came back in for a couple of games. So that shouldn't affect them much as far as the Miami Heat goes. And the Raptors in Chicago. Chicago's a 4-point favorite. This looks to be the healthiest the Bulls have been for a minute. Only Alonzo Ball still out. So they're in desperate need of a win, losing their last 3. But it'll be tough. Even though the Raptors have played and beat the 76ers last night, they have won their last 6 out of 7 games, and they're picking up form at the right time here. So it'd be interested to see if the Bulls can finally get a win. And if they get a win, can they cover the 4-point spread? I mean, Toronto is not an easy team to cover the spread on when you're a favorite. The Wizards versus the Rockets. I mean, all right, it's not as bad as the Blazers versus the Pistons, but it's up there. Just because the Wizards are slightly better than both those teams. Wizards are fully healthy coming off a win against the Lakers. Are they going to take confidence in that and go to Houston and win, but not only win, but cover? Rockets have Eric Gordon as a game-time decision. He's an extremely important player because he adds a lot of experience to that team. They're on a 5-game losing streak, coming off a blowout loss to the Grizzlies last night. So 5 points, you'd think it's not much. The Wizards, there's something fishy about that spread. You might, if I was a betting man, a crazy betting man, I'd probably take the Rockets. Thunder versus the Celtics. I mean, we've been talking about the Celtics' form and how amazing they've been. The only thing we could say is Marcus Smart and Bruce Williams are out tonight. Are 2 key defenders in that Celtics setup. They're out because they played the back-to-back, and coach is probably thinking, okay, this is the Thunder. They're the lowest scoring team in the NBA. We should be able to handle them without Smart and Williams. 14.5 points. It's a lot of points without them. But then again, as we said, it is the Thunder. They've still got great scorers in Tatum and Jaylen Brown for the Celtics, as well as Peyton Pritchard, who's caught absolute fire off the bench, who may be starting tonight without them too. Then we've got the big game for me, one I'm most looking forward to seeing, actually, is the Mavs and the Timberwolves games in Dallas. Dallas are -2. The Timberwolves do have Karl Anthony Towns as a game time decision. It looks like he's going to be okay. That might be because a niggling injury, but they have won their last 4. They're now the number 1 scoring team in the NBA. They've been putting up 135-point average in the last 4 or 5 games. Mavs have also lost their last 2. They have gotten a couple of players back from injury for this one. So it'd be interesting to see how they fare against each other. Let's move on to the NHL. We got the Canadiens versus the Bruins in Montreal. Jake Allen confirmed in net for the Canadiens. Swayman expected for the Bruins, who's had an amazing season so far, looking to be one of the goalies of the year with a 2.09 goal against average. But, you know, there's the reasons. The Bruins are -265. I'm staying away from that game. And then you got the Golden Knights against the Minnesota Wild. Talbot confirmed in goal for the Wild. Brossois, expected for the Knights. Logan Thompson's obviously won the last 2 games for the Knights. Golden Knights do play tomorrow against the Winnipeg Jets, so this could be a game for Brossois to go. Tough game to call. Knights obviously have a ton of injuries. Minnesota Wild are pretty healthy. I think they're much the most healthy team in the NHL. They should actually be doing a lot better than they are doing, with the fact that a lot of teams are decapitated in the NHL right now, and the Wild are pretty good as far as health-wise goes. One of the games I'm looking forward to seeing the most is the Oilers and the Avalanche. Mike Smith is going in goal for the Oilers, which I'm kind of sad about because I wanted to see them both at their best. He's got a 6-8 record in net for the Oilers. They are coming off a 5-game win streak, so the team does have a lot of confidence. Avalanche is number 1 goalie. Kemper is starting in goal. So you'd like to have seen Oilers number 1 goalie starting. I've still only have Landeskog out. Other than that, both teams are pretty healthy. And reason I was looking forward to seeing them go against each other the most is this is their first meeting since 2019. So haven't actually seen these 2 teams go at it for a while. I would say Avs are -190, mainly because of the fact that Smith is going in net. I think they would still be favourites, don't get me wrong, but I think it would be at a -150 if Oilers had their starting goalie out there. The last game in the NHL today is the Predators versus the Ducks. Gibson confirmed goalie for the Ducks. Saros is expected for the Preds, not been confirmed just yet. These 2 just played 11 days ago in Nashville, actually, with the Preds winning 4-1. Ducks are on their worst losing streak of the year. They've lost 6 in a row. So this would be a good time to turn it around for them. If I was a betting man, I would seriously consider taking the Ducks on this one as an underdog. That's it as far as the daily games go. We're going to give you one pick today, one free pick that we're going to take. After thinking long and hard about it, still thinking long and hard about it because this is not an easy decision. We are going to take the Mavs -2 against the Timberwolves. So that's our bet of the day. If you want to follow us on that, we'll be happy for you to do so. Don't come down on us tomorrow if it doesn't win, but we will be taking the Mavs -2 versus the Timberwolves. Good luck, everyone, today. Hope you've enjoyed watching. And come back tomorrow for our next update on games.